Bowsy, you ready to get this match rolling?
100%, I'm ready to get this match rolling. We'll see how these two teams in the Diamond tier are going to be facing off. Mythos Griffins and Emerald. Loser goes home, while the winner goes up to the Losers Finals to face off against Bastion OF. So it's going to be one heck of a grudge match here, Fletch, to see who's going to be moving on through the playoffs bracket in the NA Diamond tier.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you look at these teams, right? There's a pretty distinct difference in the record between these two teams. You know, Mythos Griffins finished 6-2, and it was vice versa for Emerald during the regular season, going 2-6. So, you know, most people would generally think that Emerald is the favorite, or is not the favorite in this series, but we saw during both the mid-season tournament and this one specifically that, you know, it's just get hot at the right time. You know, Bastion OF, they've kind of been punching up. They beat Mythos Griffins 3-0 in the upper bracket in both of the tournaments. So, you know, maybe Emerald can look to try and do something similar here.
And that comes as well as with Mythos Griffins beating IUPUI Bastion OF in the regular season. So definitely Mythos Griffins have not been the best when the lights were at their brightest. So hopefully they're able to get out of their stage fright sense and try to come into this matchup with a victory here. Because again, loser goes home here in this tournament, Fletch, the first eliminated team out of the bracket for the Diamond tier. So there are some stakes on the lines here, and we'll have to see if Mythos Griffins are able to take advantage of those as we take a look at the lineup for that roster. Here very shortly, Fletch, and the teams have decided to bring us to Nepal.
Not surprising at all, right? You know, most teams are choosing Nepal early in these matches because, you know, it's the Lijiang Tower of a map pool that it does not have Lijiang Tower in it. It's where everybody's comfortable and they think that they can get the best work done. It's, you know, it's just a comfort pick, just like Lijiang Tower is. So Nepal has been a very, very popular first map pick here, and it's pretty flexible on what you can do for the most part, because I know that Emerald does prefer the more pokey composition. They like Sigma, they like, you know, a mercy pocketed Ashe and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from them, and that is something that can really work quite well on it, Nepal, if that's what they want to do, because of all of the, you know, compared to some other control maps, it has some relatively pretty good sightlines.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to maps like Shrine or Sanctum. It's definitely very easy to have those long sightlines, but you also have those opportunities for flank routes, so you could run something like a Tracer to go into the backline to try and keep the teams in that sort of perplexing state, trying to make it so that they can be thrown off in any sort of way. The interesting part is going to be to see what these two teams are going to run when it comes to these maps, because obviously Nepal can tend itself to a lot of brawl compositions, but I just witnessed yesterday Dive being run on this map. Wrecking Ball was the pick to get a team over the victory line on Nepal, so we'll have to see if these teams are going to opt in for the brawl style, if we're going to see this Orisa mirror, or if we're going to see some other styles to try and mix up the sort of play here and try to catch the enemy team off guard.
And, you know, you talk about the Orisa, she's just been that character right now. I mean, plus 80% pick rate, probably. She's very, very dominant. So, you know, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure Mythos Griffins are just going to roll out with their poke compositions, potentially going over to the Orisa if they need to. But Mythos Griffins, they've done pretty well for themselves all season. I'm not really entirely sure what they're going to roll out here, though. So I'm interested to see as we get into Nepal Village what Mythos Griffins and Emerald are going to roll out on. And it'll be the Orisa.
Yeah, not really a surprise here. Again, you mentioned that 80% pick rate right now for Orisa. Mythos Griffins on the left side of the screen running out on that Orisa right now. Emerald on the right side running out on it as well, it seems like. We'll get those team names sorted in a second here, just make sure they are correct. But I'm interested to see about the support line and DPS lines here, because we're seeing a different style here. Obviously, Mythos Griffins, they want to try to run out with the Symmetra, probably to teleport out. Might see them switch over to a Tracer afterward. But then you have Mythos Griffins who are running Baptiste Mercy. So we'll see if this is going to work in their favor, because you don't have that speed boost, unlike Mythos Griffins, who are just going to be going right over to the objective and trying to stake claim for their own.
And speaking of stake to claim, they're already here. 13 seconds until the point unlocks. Just waiting for Emerald to arrive. Just trying to poke out a little bit of damage here. Find something as you hear Swagnomite and Leo Leopard throwing out these teleporters, trying to find some creative angles to take these fights, but it's going to ultimately be the point flip over to Mythos Griffins. Emerald still gingerly waiting for an opening to get into this fight. You see, bronze is so damn low, but the healing is there as the follow-up does not come through for Emerald. Overheating is Race, trying to find something, anything. Fives getting run down by Swagnomite, but finally Race is going to be able to get the better of that Orisa duel, and they're going to try and clean stuff up, but it's going to be Mythos Griffins having to back out here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how this Mercy is working so well here for Emerald, because there's a lot more healing on the side of them compared to Mythos Griffins. For Mythos, you have the Moira, obviously, which can pump out a lot of heals and already has the Coalescence, as I say that, but Emerald have Baptiste and Mercy on their comp, and both of them are pocketing Race to make sure that Orisa can just continue to push forward. It's basically like a brick wall that's continually getting mended as the day goes on. So now, we'll have to see if Mythos Griffins are able to take advantage of this and try to get rid of those healers, as they do have the opportunity to move in on them faster.
All right, they TP up to the high ground, so they have that control, and Mox is going to be able to jump into the little point there and clean up the damage onto Swagnomite. Going to take down that Symmetra early. Sound barrier for Mox to keep this fight rolling, but yeah, Race and Reese, they're not looking very healthy right now, so at 50%, or just short of it, it will be Mythos taking the point back.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the beat there from Mox was mainly the deciding factor, keeping everybody sustained through all the damage that Emerald was throwing through. Again, I talked about the lack of healing compared to Emerald that Mythos Griffins have, but when you have that beat, that means everybody has extra health pools, you're able to keep yourselves alive. It's going to be interesting to see how these two teams are going to engage into this next fight, because both teams are coming in with 3 ults apiece, both DPS ults, and the Orisa for Mythos Griffins versus the Amplification Matrix for Emerald. So we'll see if these two teams are able to use these ults to their factor here, and which one's going to get the better end of it.
All right, here we go. You see Swagnomite just throwing out those alt fires, trying to find something, going to throw up the wall to get this fight rolling. They have split the point in 2 here. They're going to throw out the Amp Matrix as well. So with both walls being here, this point is in 4 pieces. But Coda has already gone down. Now Fives throws out the Terra Surge and charging it up, going to get the damage to take out Ortho Meerkat. And without that Baptiste in this fight for Emerald, it's just going to be a stressful fight, though Emerald did get a flip during that fight.
Yeah, and that could be crucial that Emerald was able to get the flip there, because now that's valuable progress that Mythos Griffins were unable to get. It's still going to be last fight territory here, but it's going to be interesting to see if Emerald can profit off of that. They got up to 61% of their own, meaning they only need to win at most 2 fights in order to take this point for their own, but they are coming into that last fight territory, and they are making a desperation swap, it seems, here to the Reaper. If they can try to find an early pick, however, there is the potential for Emerald to take this point back.
There's only one ultimate close to being on the field, and that's Reese's Valkyrie, which is going to come out early here, but Swagnomite just explodes. Absolutely evaporated by Mythos Griffins, and without the Reaper, that's a lot of that upfront damage gone, and Emerald will not be able to keep this fight rolling, even in despite the res there onto Meerkat, but it will be Mythos Griffins taking Nepal Village.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel like the biggest problem was Emerald did not really have an opportunity to get back in. When it comes to holding the point, they're in a pretty good state. Again, I mentioned the double main support composition with Baptiste and Mercy Hills keeping that Orisa alive means that Orisa can basically live forever as long as they are sustained on the point. But if you're trying to engage, you have to take the slow approach. You can't really rush into the enemy team because you have this Mercy in your backline and not a Lucio. Which is probably why Mythos Griffins are taking such an advantage here. They're getting into these fights quicker, and they're able to sustain themselves a lot better because they can expect Emerald's push coming in here. But now as we head over to Sanctum, full sale swaps on the side of Emerald. They are switching off of that Orisa. They're going over now to this Diva with the Moira Ana. So again, sort of a double flex support almost on this lineup if you categorize Moira as a flex support. But we'll see if this is going to make any sort of difference here in this matchup here on the Sanctum.
Bronze on the Cassidy now, trying to find some shots with the Peacekeeper. Gonna deal a little bit of damage. Can they catch Coda out? Well, Mox catches themselves out going off the map there. Coda does end up going down, but Emerald are going to be able to bring this fight out despite the loss of Coda early.
Yeah, Mox saying in the chat that they just hit one of the craziest lag spikes ever. In my opinion, I think they just played the new Frogger that has sinkholes implemented, but nonetheless, not a great start here for Mythos Griffins. But again, they have this speed boost, meaning that they can just rush onto a target if they decide to. The question is, who do you rush onto here? Apart from the supports, it's very difficult to find a target to rush on here.
The Race is alone for the time being. Gonna join up at the boot from Mox! Throws a Race right into the pit. Getting their get back for whatever the heck happened last fight, but Fives taking the positioning on the point. You see Swagnomite just has to throw out that Wraith form to try and deny a little bit as Ripa throwing out that Coalescence to try and firmly establish Mythos Griffins hold on this point. And, you know, the touches are going to come through. But, oh my God, another one. Race goes for a swim once more.
Race 0, Pit 2 is the current score for this map right now, but Emerald just having a little bit of trouble keeping themselves sustained. Mythos Griffins finding 2 great opportunities to boop off this Diva, and now it's going to be a challenge of Emerald trying to re-engage into this. Not only do you have to worry about the sustainability of Mythos Griffins with this Orisa, but you need to try to find a way to get rid of these stragglers. Bronze is sitting in the backline and the Cassie just trying to poke out anybody from a distance, and Mythos Griffins are taking this wide angle knowing that Emerald are going to try to step right on top of the point.
Right around 4 ultimates for both sides here. Only missing the Coalescence for Griffins and Emerald. The Deadeye now going to come out from Bronze. Self-destruct has to be used by Race because they did lose that mech, but Coda caught out in no man's land there without a significant portion of damage, especially because they don't have either of their DPS. So it will be Mythos Griffins taking the lead here definitively.
Yeah, definitely. And Emerald seemed very staggered there. Race was on one angle. Coda was on the point alongside Swagnomite. It definitely seems like there's some sort of cohesion problem right now with Emerald, and Mythos Griffins are taking advantage of that. They're picking apart the pieces one by one and being able to find these advantages in their favor here. So Emerald, hopefully they're able to fix that up, especially now that they have basically 3 to 4 ults online right now. So if they're able to clean up that sort of coordination, then they have a chance to take this point back.
All right, here we go. Oh, that's a tragedy for Emerald here. They're going to throw out the Terra Surge does 5s, but I mean, they've already lost 2 people for Emerald, and without the numbers, this is just going to be Mythos Griffins dominating in this fight, and 90% for Mythos Griffins. They're going to be hard-pressed to get a touch for Emerald.
Yeah, really, it's only going to be on Coda here to try and touch that objective, and they have to go all the way to the edge, and they end up getting found out before, and Mox is back in the pit. So Race fell in the pit twice, Mox fell in the pit twice, but all at the end, it's 2 points for Mythos Griffins. And they'll be taking the first map in this series here, Fletch, in pretty convincing fashion.
It was convincing, but you gotta, like, there were a couple of fights where Emerald definitely looked like they could, you know... What was that? Why?
Yeah, I mean, what you mentioned there, there were points that Emerald were looking strong, especially when they were running that Mercy Baptiste there. So I feel like we definitely have potential here for Emerald. They just need to try and figure out what compositions they're going to run, as Fletch is currently losing his mind. Welcome to CGL, everybody.
All right, okay. Yeah, there were times where Emerald definitely looked like they could, make a statement here. I mean, they won both first fights on that in that map pretty convincingly, and they got up to 45-50% on both of the maps. But at the end of the day, it's just Mythos Griffins being able to survive for significantly longer, right? I mean, switching over to that Diva, it gave Emerald a little bit more speed. They could, peel a little bit better and, all the things that Diva is good at. But what it lacks is the survivability that the Orisa provides. And Mythos Griffins took advantage of that. They were able to survive for longer. And in this meta where, survivability is king, eventually you're just going to be able to outlast your enemies if they can't survive.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, Overwatch seems to be a sustainability game, and with the tanks like Orisa, Mauga, Roadhog, and Ramatra being toward the top of the leaderboard, if you're not running a tank that's sustainable, it's very difficult to really keep yourself in the contention. And Diva has obviously dipped down in that sort of statistic because they're not as sustainable, especially up against an Orisa. Against a Monkey and against a Mauga, yeah, you can run a Diva, but against an Orisa, it's not an easy thing to do. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a circle hole in that sort of instance. So we'll have to see if Emerald are going to work on their compositions as the series goes on, because there is some stuff here. We obviously saw that strong presence on Nepal Village. They were able to cap the point. They brought it up to 60%. But they need to work on the rest of it in order to really put themselves in contention to try and take on Mythos Griffins, who are looking strong out of the gate. They're running what is considered the meta, and they're using it pretty well, especially with their cohesion.
Yeah. So moving forward, Emerald is going to select Midtown. What I really want to see is, I do not hate the Mercy for what Emerald is trying to do, but I want to see more value out of the damage boost, right? Because that is literally half of what Mercy should be doing, right? You think Resurrection, Healing Beam. Mercy's most powerful thing in her kit is going to be that damage boost. And it just kind of felt like Emerald throughout that map, they got a little bit of value out of the damage boosted Ashe. But when push came to shove, right, they weren't finding those quick picks that you need when you're playing a composition, with the Ashe, with the Diva, stuff like that, to justify the Mercy's, a little bit lower healing output. So I do want to see, if they're going to continue to lean into this Mercy, I want to see more quicker gameplay, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally understood what you mean there, because, I mean, when you look at that first point of Nepal, the main usage of the Mercy was to give a double pocket to Race, which in theory can be good, because, again, you're reinforcing a brick wall, but then you remove the possibility of having a damage boost so that you can clean out your opponents faster. So the Mercy, the pieces are there, they're just not assembled in a puzzle right now for Emerald. So hopefully, with this map, with their map choice, they'll be able to make a decision that will help them in the long run here. We already see Coda going over to that Ashe here in the spawn door, so there is a chance we might see that Mercy come back out here for the side of Emerald. And as I say that, Reese selects the Mercy and then goes over to the Ana. So we'll have to see what they're deciding on in the spawn room there. Mythos Griffins, on the other hand, are deciding to run with the Sigma for the first time here today, as well as having Ripa on the Zenyatta. This is a stock standard poke comp in its most basic form. You have the Zenyatta to try to burn down the enemy tank. Meanwhile, the Sigma is constantly taking off angles. It's going to be on Emerald to try and focus on a specific target, because if you can eliminate that Zenyatta or the Baptiste, that means Mythos Griffins are without a damage boost or without their main healer. So it's going to be on trying to focus on these targets and try to initiate a fight off of that.
All right, here we go. Midtown for map number 2. We'll see if Emerald can strike back here with this Orisa composition. I mean, they are dealing a lot of damage early, and Sphagnumite is caught out on the high ground trying to get away from Leopard, but Mox is already dead. So that is most of the healing gone for Mythos Griffins as Emerald begins to rotate around to this off angle. And you see Emerald trying to, go into the cracks in the armor to jump on Bronze to try and push Mythos Griffins back, and they will do so beautifully. They're going to get, a couple ticks here, but probably fully cap point A.
Yeah, definitely, and it was because of that early pick on the Mox, not to mention Swagdamite focusing out Ripa and keeping them contested, pushing them back all the way toward the other end of that wall, that made it so that Emerald could pounce right on top of their opponents. Again, that main focus is just trying to focus down the healers, make sure that they cannot get the value that they need. Zenyatta, make sure that they can't get as much damage. Baptiste, make sure they cannot heal. Once you do that, Mythos Griffins are vulnerable, and you can easily clean up the remainder there. So if Emerald can keep this up, they're in a very good position as they run through the streets of Midtown.
All right, here we go. A quick point A capture for Emerald leaves them with 5 minutes on B. So, I mean, they're looking pretty good here early, but Mythos Griffins, they're just raining down bullets from this high ground. A big dynamite from Coda is going to lead to the death of Ripa. You see up there, Swagdamite tries to jump in and find someone, but you know, despite going down there, the damage has already been done. Mythos Griffins, they're losing their lives and they're losing ground.
Yeah, definitely, and it's just because Emeralds are able to just steamroll on top of them with this Orisa here. It's caused Fives to switch over to their own Orisa here, because again, Orisa is just a mobile brick wall that can continually move. Sigma has to really poke from a distance if they want to get as much value as possible here. Mythos Griffins will have the opportunity to get a hold here. Ripa's going to be using their Transcendence to get them in, but it's going to be risky to try and take this point back.
All right, now Terra Surge from Race. Not quite going to be able to take down the people that were in it, but the Nano Blade is here, and Swagdamite gonna cut down 2. Loses track of Fives, but the fight is already over. The damage is done. They're gonna cap B.
Yeah, and a very swift, so far, a very swift map here for Emerald with 5 minutes left in the time bank. You're already entering Grand Central Station. They are making record pace through the streets of New York right now. Griffins, meanwhile, looking for answers. They've switched up their support line to Moira Kiriko here. It's going to be difficult thus far, especially considering Emerald already has this high ground courtesy of Coda and Swagdamite, so Mythos Griffins are definitely definitely have their backs against the wall. We'll have to see if they're able to stabilize, however, with this Orisa now in play.
All right, well, that is going to be a good start, as Leopard going to put an icicle through the skull of Coda to get this fight started. That was their only ultimate on the board, so as they try to keep this fight going, they don't have that damage. The Deadeye from the back line, not going to mean much of anything. Okay, it does actually mean something. Not going to be able to throw up that deflect early enough, as now the Terra Surge from Fives to try and finish this off. Bob enters the fray, but Race refuses to die. Just barely taking damage.
Yeah, even with the supports distracted by that high noon, it's still Emerald coming out on top. The Bob is there to help them out as well. And just because that Emerald were not, the supports of Emerald did not die in the entirety of that, Mythos Griffins were just unable to kill Race. You're, again, shooting at a brick wall that's constantly being mended. You're never going to break through that wall, especially when you have this Orisa and Ana just keeping Race alive. So Emerald just keeping their supports alive. That was the key to victory here, and now they're approaching that final point quickly.
Kitsune Rush out early from Mythos Griffins, as well as the Blizzard Race invests the Terra Surge, but it's not going to mean anything as Emerald gonna falter, but they're very, very close to the end here.
Yeah, definitely. It's only about one fight that Emerald needed in order to get this point back into their favor. And they're nearing this Nano Blade again here from Swagdamite and Reese that we saw worked pretty well at the end of Grand Central Station. It's going to be on trying to bait out A, the Suzu, and B, trying to force Mox into this Coalescence early here, because obviously Moira can be lethal in the Coalescence. They can keep themselves alive as well as the rest of the team sustained. So we'll have to see if Emerald are going to be able to bait out these ultimates quickly here to try and gain an advantage.
All right, one ultimate on each side for the moment, but one player down for Emerald means that they just simply cannot engage here. They just got to run.
Yeah, if they're forced to get out, you're down your tank. That means you're down your main frontal force in the fight here. So Mythos Griffins going to be able to take an advantage of that. They're starting to move all the way up to the doors of Grand Central, trying to find these late stagger picks, knowing how important they are. Mox going full DPS Moira as well to get rid of Reese. That's going to burn so much time off a time bank here for Emerald. And what's looking like a 5-minute time bank has already been cut in half because Mythos Griffins have been able to stabilize this well.
All right, there's just so much damage being dealt from Mythos Griffins up front that Emerald cannot close the distance. They've lost both of their DPS once again.
Yeah, and it just seems like Emerald are just trying to find, they're trying to find a penny at the bottom of the well, but at the end of the day, they just keep drowning. They keep poking their head out in spaces they shouldn't, and are just dying as a result. So now, they're going to have a full 5 force. They're all sticking together, trying to push into this engage. So Emerald have the opportunity to make this push work, but it has to work to perfection here, and you have to use these ultimates as best you can, because if you don't, then basically this map's over.
All right, Nano Blade is in play from Swagnomite. They're going to try and jump on to the Mei, but, you know, that ice block is such a nuisance, and Swagnomite simply cannot get anything done with the Blade but some damage. And with this Deadeye from behind, okay, Braun's not going to be able to clean that up, but the Terra Surge from Raze going to try and deny some space, but the health pools are not looking great for Emerald here right now. Swagnomite gonna go down after taking out Mox, but you know, with the close spawn here for Mythos Griffins, it will be them who comes out on top of this fight. Only 60 seconds remain.
Yeah, that was probably your biggest ultimate combo there, the Nano Blade, but it just was an unfortunate time there. Mythos Griffins able to keep themselves sustained, just not the right focus there from Swagnomites, but now you're left with 60 seconds. You're back onto this Mercy here, so hopefully we'll see Reese provide more damage boost here to the DPS, who are now Sojourn Ash, so there is the potential here for this Mercy to work. Now that this Mercy is focusing on the damage boost, you can do stuff like that.
All right, doors blown wide open with the death of Bronze here. Bob going to enter the fray once again, is in a great spot for Emerald to deal a bunch of damage, and Bob going to get the job done, and Race eats the Blizzard. An incredible play might have just saved this map for Emerald. There will be a touch from Mythos Griffins, but Emerald, they have the positioning, they have the time, and Bronze cannot peek out. It just has to be desperation, and there won't be a touch from Mythos Griffins. Emerald, they falter for 4 minutes, but they finish with time.
That is very crucial here for Emerald. Again, it was a 4-minute falter, but that one fight was all that mattered, and pretty much every single lottery number aligned. You get that opening pick, Bob goes in the perfect position, you get rid of the Blizzard with the Javelin spin. There could not have been another reality where everything went as right as it just went for Emerald, and now they finish out the map here, which means if Mythos Griffins do finish, that means Emerald do get another shot at an attack, and based on what we saw with their first attack, there is the potential that they could make it back to Grand Central Station. So really well done from Emerald, being able to sustain, make it through all of that sort of hassle, and finally bust open the doors when it mattered the most. Question is, though, how do Mythos Griffins respond here? Emerald on the defense are going to be running back out with the Sarissa, and I kind of like what I see so far here on the side of Mythos Griffins, but back to the Orisa, much more sustained. You have this Mercy coming back out here from Reese, which means Coda probably is going to be running on the Ashe, and you're probably going to be focusing on damage boosting your DPS. The question is, can you sustain up against what Mythos Griffins are currently showing in the spawn room, which is a dive with the famous Winton?
Yeah, Coda actually hovering Echo.
Okay.
So I don't hate that at all. Frankly.
Yeah, I think Echo is actually a really good pick. Echo probably as good as Cassidy right now in the current meta. Can fly from on high. If Mythos Griffins don't have Bronze focusing out that Echo, that means that there's no one really to contest them. So Coda could definitely make an impact here on this Echo. Plus, Sojourn Echo definitely is a pretty strong DPS line. That's a lot of damage that Mythos Griffins are going to have to sustain throughout the entirety of this attack, and that's a lot of potential for easy kills for both of the DPS. So we'll have to see how Mythos Griffins are going to approach this.
Dive early from Fives, but Coda in that sky going to be able to escape the Tesla cannon of the Winston, and Fives not quite able to find anything here on the first go around, but you know who does? Emerald does. Race and Meerkat find a couple of picks early, and they're able to collapse onto Fives, and despite the loss of Swagnomite, Perez is just going to come through, and they're hunky-dory.
Yeah, definitely, and I think this Winston composition is going to be very difficult for Mythos Griffins, because if you look at the side of Emerald, who the heck are you supposed to dive? Obviously, they tried to dive on Dakota, but Reese was there to keep them up. You try to drive Swagnomite, who's consistently been behind Race, you're just going to be barreled on by that Orisa. There's no clear dive target here for the side of Mythos Griffins, so it's going to be interesting to see what their plan is with this Winston comp. That's what they're going to do, I mean, just to land the DPS.
Meerkat just explodes, and Fives able to just back out long enough to get the healing, and Reese is so damn low, but finally going to be cleaned up is both Swagnomite and Reese. And now Mythos Griffins are able to get that dive going. That fight was entirely on the back of Bronze.
Yeah, that first pick was crucial because that eliminates basically your main healer in this situation, because Mercy, a single target healer, cannot keep the entire team alive. So the Moira dying means that Emerald were in a terrible state before the fight even began, because you were down your main heals, you only had the Mercy to keep you alive, and the Mercy cannot keep a team alive unless she has Valkyrie. Spoiler alert, Reese hasn't been able to build up the Valkyrie so far in this defense, so now it's going to be Mythos Griffins pushing the cart through the streets of Midtown, but Emerald have high ground advantage here. We'll have to see what the dive attempt is going to be here from the Mythos Griffins, as Leopard looks like they want to try to take that right side, maybe trying to go for a sneaky pulse bomb into the back line.
Has that pulse bomb ready to go. Just being patient, waiting for Fives to call a first dive. Did Swagnomite see that? Maybe not the Tracer, but the rest of the team is there behind the Leopard, and taking a lot of damage is a Swagnomite, and this overclock from Bronze is going to be good to take down one there. There will, however, be a trade, which is great for Emerald. A significant portion of healing, and the Resurrection brings back Swagnomite, so the numbers just swung so quickly in the way of Mythos Griffins, and despite losing Reese to a great shot by Bronze here, it's going to be a rough fight here. You can potentially find Swagnomite, and they will be able to snipe Swagnomite down there as Fives popping this Primal Rage to try and lock this fight up. You see Race and Meerkat all alone left on the point, and not going to be able to hold on here, but the extra few seconds will always count for something.
Yeah, definitely. Mythos Griffins being able to use that dive pretty well. They were able to get in the backline with the help of Winston, just peeling out the entire team, just like in this beautiful gift you see here.
Just like that!
So yeah, Mythos Griffins able to use that pretty well here, but Emerald were able to stop the card here, so they do have the opportunity for one final hold here outside of Grand Central Station. So Mythos Griffins have to break through here, and they only have the nano boost to do so.
All right, overclock from Swagnomite. Able to get Bronze very, very low, but with this nano boost going on to Fives, this fight is going to be very, very difficult. Swagnomite not able to get anything, but then squished by Fives, and this should be pretty definitively Emerald losing out here on point B, and Mythos Griffins getting this capture. The stall is all that Emerald can do.
Yeah, definitely. And at the end of the day, Race is going to have to try to retreat out of his situation because they are caught in no man's land right now, trying to run back to the spawn door. But definitely, it's just Mythos Griffins being able to find these targets effectively here. Swagnomite unable to get anything there with that. And, oh, that's just evil, Leopard. Hitting the pulse bomb on Race to just stagger them out here. That's just evil, but still, Mythos Griffins just riding out this momentum now, and now they're entering into Grand Central Station and have some pretty good opportunities here to push it all the way to the end. We'll have to see if Emeralds are gonna be able to contest this. With Swagnomite switching over to the Tracer here, they obviously want to try to focus this backline, which has been kind of uncontested throughout the entirety of this attack.
All right, I mean, Five's so very low, but not going to be able to be taken down here, and especially with this Primal Rage in hand, Fives is going to be nigh unkillable for the foreseeable future. Just trying to zap down this Orisa is the Winton now. The engagement from Fives in hand with the Kitsune Rush from Rippa. The Terra Surge from Race deals a lot of damage, but no final blows in the hands of Emerald, and they are faltering here late. That might be all that they wrote here for their defense.
Yeah, Emerald are probably going to be able to get the stall out here. Swagnomite is going to be able to touch the objective, but it's not going to be for long. But you do have this Doomfist Race coming back in with the Kitsune Rush.
Oh my god, but a massive anti-grenade from Mox to deny so much shielding and enable so much damage. And Mythos Griffins steamroll Emerald on their attack, and they're gonna finish with over 2 minutes in the time bank, but with the extra time that Emerald gets, it will be an over 3 minute time bank going into their second attack.
And I mentioned it I mentioned it toward the beginning of that last fight there. The support line for Mythos Griffins right now has been the deciding factor. There is currently a $900 bounty on them because they have consistently been setting up the teams. Mox is hitting some of the biggest anti-nades right now and setting up these engages for Mythos Griffins to count on to Emerald. Rippa's been able to keep the team sustained in the backline. Mythos Griffins support line right now is the silent MVP so far of this map. So Emerald either needs to really focus on the support line or change up their strategy, because Mox and Rippa are currently steamrolling your entire team, or at least setting up Griffins to steamroll your team. So now, as Emerald are going to be entering into their second attack attempt, they only have a minute here on the clock. And they're going to be running out with the same composition we saw them on that last attack here, with Reese on the Ana, Meerkat on the Moira here. So we'll have to see if this is going to work as well as it did last time for Emerald, considering Mythos Griffins are off of the BAP Zen and are now going over to this Ana Kiriko for the defense, which, again, works so well on their attack. I'm not surprised to see them try to stick it here for the defense.
All right, and yep,
Owo.
the Owo Oxywash Overdrive here. Yep, very, very good brand there. I fully endorse Owo. My personal choice for laundry detergent. But, yeah, I do actually, this is my personal choice for Emerald's composition too. I feel like this is a very good comp for them to just run it down on. And they are. Race has to play a little bit safe, being antied up here for the time being, as they're just trying to push Fives back. And Coda from the sky, good to... just dominates Leopard there on an off angle. And yeah, Mythos Griffins without their Tracer, as the trade actually comes through from Bronze. There will be a tick coming through here, maybe even two. We'll get a second here, but Bronze so low on the high ground, nobody to help out that Sojourn, as Emerald continue to find these picks. As the fight gets longer and longer, this fight will just favor Emerald more and more. A good ante from Mox, but it won't lead to anything, as Emerald are going to capture point A.
Yeah, that pick onto the Tracer was probably the most crucial factor in that sort of engage, because you get rid of probably the only thing that was going to be able to contest that point, plus the only thing that was going to keep your attention away from the Firehouse, which is where all of the Mythos Griffins were set up. So that was a beautiful pick there from Coda to set up the engage here. Now Emerald had the opportunity to make a lot of ground here through the streets of Midtown, but they have to play this perfectly. They can't take a pinky toe off of this cart, or else their push is over.
All right, overtime for Emerald here on their second attack, getting some good meterage in the face of Race. Walking up to this high ground, Mythos Griffins need to stall something out. It will be going under the bridge as Fives enters the fray here. Now Terra Surges enter the fray, trades on trades on trades, but with this nano boost on it to Fives, there will be a favor towards Mythos Griffins, and unfortunately, it will be Race that steps off the point, but not a shabby attack for only having a minute for Emerald.
Yeah, definitely. That is a very good attack, especially with a minute. I mean, obviously, Emerald coming into this only had that 1 minute, so it's pretty good to be able to push it at the end of the Midtown Tunnel here. Unfortunate that it came down to a C9, or technically... not fully a C9, probably a C4.5, because there were only two members alive, and that was Race and Meerkat. Nonetheless, though, Emerald did a very good job on that push, which means there is a potential here. The question is, can they hold better than what they did on their defense before? They were able to hold on that first point, but they have to try and hold Mythos Griffins back for 3 minutes, which, when Mythos Griffins started getting the momentum rolling, it was basically a steamroll. So they have to stop Mythos Griffins from getting that early momentum. And they're opting to go to the Reaper guy to try and counter Fives' Monkey. I don't know about that one, Chief, but we'll have to see.
As I'm looking at this comp, I mean, I think that the biggest crux of what Emerald was doing on their first defense was that they had the Mercy that just couldn't do much for anyone but who she was, you know, latched onto. But now they have the Ana. I don't even think that the Reaper is the most important switch here. I think the Ana is probably the most important of the switches that Emerald are making here.
Yeah, I think that Ana actually is a very good point now that you mentioned that. It definitely can make a difference, but it does sacrifice one weak spot for another here. Now, Mythos Griffins have an opportunity to try and dive a target. So unless you are fully keeping that Ana in check, then Mythos Griffins have an opportunity to pounce here and take this point faster than they did before.
Right, rotations coming through from Mythos. They're going to walk through the alleyway, but Coda is ready for this rotation. Finds the headshot on the Bronze, forces them back around the corner. Going to throw the dynamite out, going to hit a couple there. Trying to build up to Bob as quickly as they can. You see Fives trying to engage on a target there. Coda anteed up a little bit. Will get the head just removed by Bronze 76 here, and there's just nothing that Emerald can do. There will be a capture coming through from Mythos Griffins.
Yeah, and while there was Peel to keep Reese alive, it also opened the door for other members of Emerald because they were starting to get staggered. Coda was on the point alone there, and Swagnomite was all the way in the back. So Mythos Griffins did dive in. The peel was there for Emerald, but it wasn't a full peel. It was a partial peel. Some of the team members were lost in the sauce, and at the end of the day, Mythos Griffins were just able to take advantage of that. They got that initial pick on Dakota, and then it was lights out from there. So now, as the card approaches this first corner of the map here, of the streets, Mythos Griffins have an opportunity to take this map back into their hands, but they have to try and take this high ground away from Emerald.
All right. Only one more shot for Emerald. 90 seconds on the clock. Just under. They have some resources here to try and win this out as Race drops down to the low ground. This Winston of Fives is so low. Oh my God, Leopard! Just chucking the pulse bomb yard onto Reese. Now the Terra Surge gonna find a little bit of damage, but nothing going with it in the way of final blows. And Emerald, despite a strong attack and, two strong attacks actually, Mythos Griffin just able to get it that much better. Very, very close map there, but Mythos Griffin's moved to match point.
And again, I mentioned that the vulnerability of having an Ana in this composition versus the Mercy. Again, Ana was probably the better choice overall, but you open yourself up to a very vulnerable sort of attack here, and that's exactly what the Mythos Griffins were able to set up. That beautiful pulse bomb from the backline from Leo Leopard, setting up that sort of attack and putting the Mythos Griffins in that winnable situation. You eliminate the most vulnerable target and the most valuable target on the enemy team and set yourself up with a map victory here. So really good job here from Mythos Griffins, putting themselves now at match point here, Fletch, heading into map number 3. So they have the potential to move on through this bracket, but Emerald have shown signs of brightness, but they need to turn up the brightness a little bit more if they want to stay alive in this series.
Yeah, and they've looked better than, I think anyone really thought they would, right? They were the clear underdogs coming into this series, and they're throwing punches, and they're still able to stand against Mythos Griffins. So moving forward, I really am interested to see where we're going to go on Flashpoint, how they're going to do on Flashpoint, but not until we come back from this break. So stick around. We're going to be gone for just a few minutes, and when we come back, we'll see if Emerald can keep breathing or if they will be squashed out entirely.
I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
Carpe diem. Carpe diem.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Mythos Griffins barely able to get past Emerald on map number 2. Now moving forward into map number 3, Emerald trying to just get that extra little oomph that they need to get past Mythos Griffins to stay alive.
Yeah, and it definitely has been an effort here from Emerald. They definitely have shown the potential to take on Mythos Griffins, but just Mythos Griffins have been a little bit better in the sort of overall game here. It's been interesting to see Emerald play this. They've been playing a lot more unorthodox compositions. We haven't seen them on the traditional meta. We've been seeing, for example, Mercy Baptiste, Moira Mercy, Moira Ana. It's never been this. Which is our Flashpoint map and is Suravasa.
Yeah, and you know, Suravasa, just kind of the far more popular of the two maps in Flashpoint, right? It's just, I feel like a lot of teams just feel a little more comfortable, and they have an easier time playing on this map because there's a little bit less variation between the points. There's a lot less. It's kind of hard to describe, but it feels like a lot of the points on New Junk City have this strange way that you have to play around them. Like there's a big high ground ring around Arena on New Junk City, and there's not really anything like that on Suravasa. So, you know, especially when you're playing these, you know, off-meta compositions like they are for the side of Emerald, I feel like Suravasa is probably the better of the two because you don't have to think about the roundabout ways you got to play around the non-meta stuff on New Junk City.
Yeah, New Junk City can also be established as much more of a brawly style map, especially with the style of points we see there, because you really just are in close quarters. You're constantly trying to battle the team in front of them. So maybe going over to this map means that they are trying to avoid that potential of having to run a Lucio, which so far we haven't seen them run. Except now as we take a look at the lineups here, Emerald, while keeping the same lineup, are completely shifting the order in terms of what they play. Race is going over to DPS, Reese is going over to tank, and we can expect Coda to play support here, Fletch. So while it isn't a roster change, it is a technical lineup change for the side of Emerald. We'll have to see if this is going to work into their favor, trying to spruce up this match here to try and take advantage of Mythos Griffins, who are coming out on the stock standard brawl.
All right, one map stands between Mythos Griffins and a berth in the lower finals here. So we'll see if they can get past this change of pace from Emerald, as, I mean, Fives is taking so much damage right now. Has to play safe, not going to try and face tank all of that damage alone. Goes around the other side as Reese continues to try and put those shotguns to work, has to back up out of the main here. And now with that flip in hand for Mythos, they try to get aggressive, but Fives is looking a little bit worse for wear. And now Fives is looking just a little bit dead. There will be a trade for Swagnomite, however, so it's just going to be the stagger touches to try and, milk as much time as they can off this point. But the picks are actually going through for Mythos Griffins. But this will do it for this fight. Emerald going to take this point, just touches.
Yeah, definitely. Mythos Griffins just seeming to stagger there a little bit. Fives, unfortunately, dying first means that they don't have that sustainability to keep themselves engaged. It's an interesting sort of tactic from Emerald, especially now with those final kills coming on to DKK and Rippa staggering out Mythos Griffins here. But hopefully Emerald are able to keep this sustained here, because we definitely saw the potential last time on Nepal when they were able to take the point first and had a very heavy healer comp like what they have right now. Plus all these picks coming in here late before the fight even begins means Emerald have a very good potential to win this flashpoint.
Yeah, I mean, without that Sojourn in the fight right now, I mean, they just can't push up. They're going to have to rely on Leopard, who's called out by Race. Has to use the recall, has to get out, does have the pulse bomb ready to go. So now Fives with this Terror Surge going to try and find something. Only gets that immortality field, but the numbers are going in the way of Emerald right now. The self-destruct, ducked around the corner from Reese, but not quite able to cancel the remech on to the D.Va, but will lose the mech, will lose the lives, and will lose the point here. 50% and counting now for Mythos Griffins.
There is potential for Emerald to really get back into this. They still have one more fight as long as nobody gets staggered, but Leo Leopard is going to be looking for that early pulse bomb to try and turn the tide as quickly as possible. You did force out the only support ult that Mythos Griffins have online. Plus, the only thing that Mythos Griffins have are these DPS ults, so it's going to come down to if Emerald can get the better DPS ults. That is if one of them can even use their DPS ult, because Swagnomite almost getting caught out by the Tracer, and the pulse bomb sticking to Reese.
Yeah, Leopard is really not scared to chuck those pulse bombs way further than anybody else would, but that time the stick did not lead to a kill. But you know what did is Swagnomite's Dragon Blade, and now at 97% for Emerald, the stagger touches will not be enough to help Mythos Griffins get over the hump here on the market. It will be Emerald's point.
Yeah, and Emerald just able to play that really well. They didn't have to use all of their ults to be able to push in. They were able to find those crucial picks first, and were able to just pounce on the Mythos Griffins here. Now the Mythos Griffins making a desired swap here. They're going to put Fives on the Zarya here, which is a massive D.Va counter. So obviously, this is a sort of rock, paper, scissors matchup that Mythos Griffins are trying to play here. So we'll see if they're able to make this Zarya work here. Zarya is a kind of feast or famine tank in the current meta. Not as great as they used to be, but definitely still can get the value, especially when they have high charge.
Now Race trying to force people back with the Deadeye, not going to find a kill with it, but you don't really expect to then, do you? But Emerald, they are able to ward off the aggression of Mythos, but Reese gets punished for their aggression, and now this Coalescence from Rippa is going to be good for 3 kills and a flip for Mythos Griffins.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was very risky there for Reese to push into the enemy team of Mythos Griffins, especially when the Zarya was at least at 50% charge, because the Zarya is just going to be burning you down. The entirety of Mythos Griffins is looking you dead in the eye. You are a dead D.Va if you try to go in to a team that completely knows how to go in, that is basically focused on you. So Emerald hopefully are able to try and correct those mistakes here to try and get back this objective for their own. They are coming into a dry fight, so it's going to be difficult, but the Mythos Griffins only have one beat to their name, so we'll have to see if Emerald are going to be able to take advantage of that, knowing that that's the only ult they have online.
All right, sound barrier out from DKK to get aggro here. They're going to be able to pop this Moira first, the self-destruct from Reese Cub to try and find something, but a great immortality field there, not going to be able to save the day. DKK turned to a fine miss by the remech there of Reese, but Mythos Griffins are able to ward off Emerald, and they're going to capture the temple here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be an easy capture. Emerald look like they're just going over to waiting for the next flashpoint here, knowing that this point is lost here. So definitely a good showing for Mythos Griffins, turning it around. And unfortunately for Emerald, it is the worst possible flashpoint. It is the one directly behind Mythos Griffins. So they basically are in the disadvantage. Just luck of the dice there, unfortunately, for Emerald. So Mythos Griffins are going to be able to set up on this objective first. We'll have to see how this grab from 5s is going to be used as well here, Fletch, because it definitely could turn the tide here if Emerald are not prepared for it.
All right, the ultimate advantage very well in the hands of Mythos Griffins right now. Emerald do have a couple of their own, but, you know, it's not just the ultimate advantage, it's the numbers advantage now with Swagnomite going down early, trying to find some kind of value with this Coalescence, but not able to do so, cannot aggress with it. And I mean, with all the charge that 5s is rolling with right now, there's just nothing that Emerald can do.
And I mean, look at what Emerald are currently playing. Look how Emerald are currently playing this composition right now. Both of the supports are on the back of Reese, keeping the Diva alive when the Zarya is just pumping in the damage, and it's barely doing enough. Coda was forced to use the Coalescence to keep Reese alive in that engage, so it's just Emerald investing way too much of their resources to keep Reese alive and trying to rely on the DPS to find picks. But when your DPS are dying, what do you do then? Your tank is the only one you're really investing resources into, and you're not able to get any sort of value with it. So it's just Emerald needs to try and figure out what to do here, what their approach is going to be, because it seems like that they're a bit lost.
All right, the Pulse Bomb, I mean, it's not going to find any damage with that Big Bang combination, but I mean, all that damage dealt by the Pulse Bomb and the Coalescence, Mythos Griffins are going to lock up the ruins, and they move to map match point.
Yep, that Pulse Bomb to get rid of the Immortality Field and the Black Hole and Mega Laser combo from Mythos Griffins, just solidifying the ruins into their favor now. The good news for Emerald is now the Flashpoint is much more favored to them. That is the Flashpoint that is right next to their closer spawn point, so they're going to be able to set up on the garden basically immediately here. But now it comes the question of, can they keep themselves sustained? It has been very difficult for them to keep sustained ever since they capped the market here, and the Mythos Griffins are definitely hungry. They have this high noon, and they have that beat in the ready to try and cap this objective and be able to take the series.
All right, 3 ultimates in the hands of Emerald, and you know, a Coalescence on the way pretty soon. The duplication is going to be the first thing to be used by Emerald. They're going to try and build up this Graviton Surge, but the Deadeye from Bronze going to put an end to the duplicate at the very least, but the numbers are heavily in favor of Emerald right now, especially with Race burning down DKK. Leopard cannot blink away from those nades that are stuck to their face, and Emerald gonna take the first flip on Garden.
Yeah, I'm not certain about DKK using the beat there after you lost your tank, unless you're able to find a more helpful pick than you would have probably been able to invest that beat. But the Deadeye was only able to force out the duplicate from Race, so it didn't really catch onto anybody here. So kind of a mistake there from Mythos Griffins, as now they're going to be pushing into this with no ults in the bank, and Emerald already have its amplification matrix to keep them out of sight.
All right, and Matrix to ward off the aggression of Mythos Griffins for the time being. So Mythos are just going to try and roll around to the other side of the main there, but the Dragon Blade not going to find any sort of value here, as, you know, they're just able to burn it down Emerald right now. Oh, wow. An overinvestment there from Reese, unfortunately. It will guarantee them, you know, about 85% here, but Emerald, they falter at the last minute.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only benefit of using that Graviton Surge was it did force out the Coalescence from Rippa, but that's 4 ultimates you use in a single fight if you are Emerald. Mythos Griffins, a single Coalescence is all they had to use to keep themselves in that engage. So definitely on the receiving end of a big fat L for Emerald here. So now they're coming into this fight with only that duplicate online. They basically have to play these dry fights perfectly or try to bait out as many ultimates from the Mythos Griffins as possible, but they can't even get in without losing a pick.
They need to kill 5s before this grab comes online, or this fight is all but done. And with this tactical visor being invested, they don't even need to use the Graviton Surge. And going into this last fight, which this is the last fight for Garden, Emerald need a miracle to stay alive.
It's going to be on Race or Coda to try and touch the point here. Race trying to fly in, has the duplicate online. If they're able to get onto the point and use that duplicate before they die, they are able to duplicate over to the Tracer, which is not the best pick, but still is a duplicate that they can take advantage of, unless you're down your support.
All right, Graviton Surge out now from Five's Leopard Sticks. The Pulse Bomb to the back of the bubble, unfortunately, but the numbers are not there. They just have no resources anymore, and they will all fall over, and it was a hard-fought battle by Emerald, but Mythos Griffins are the ones who come out on top and have a date with IUPUI Bastion OF in the lower finals.
And they are going to be hungry for revenge. IUPUI Bastion OF were the teams that eliminated them from the midseason tournament and were the teams that sent them down to this lower bracket just a few weeks ago. So Mythos Griffins definitely looking to try and get their revenge in that grudge match they have between Bastion OF. Emerald, again, you mentioned it, Fletch. They had some signs of brilliance, but all that glitters is not gold, and at the end of the day, they unfortunately were unable to come out on top. They did have solid signs, but Mythos Griffins just seem to be better in every sort of regard. I will commend them for trying, especially on that final map, trying the swaps up, trying to figure out if they could find something that was much more comfortable with them, but it just wasn't enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a 3-0, but I don't think that scoreline really does any justice to how actually close that this series was for Emerald. You know, statistically speaking, this, should not have been as close as it was to begin with at all. Emerald really stepped up to the challenge, and, despite going down here in a sweep fashion, they really did put everything that they had on the line to keep their series alive, so I really do commend them. But Mythos Griffins, they're trying to get their get back moving forward in this tournament. They lost to Bastion OF in that first round, and now they have another shot at that team in the lower finals. So they really, really, really want to keep this going alive so that they can try and, punch up to the undisputed, strongest team, most people would say, in this diamond tier in Cogen.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely Mythos Griffins gonna be looking for that potential here to try and take on Bastion OF. But for now, though, it is a 3-0 victory. You've started to regain some confidence after being knocked down to this lower bracket, Fletch. Hopefully they're able to study up. They're able to get themselves ready for what is going to be one heck of a rematch in the lower finals of the NA Diamond tier here in CGL Season 13 playoffs.
Yeah, should be a great one moving forward, and unfortunately that will do it for us tonight here. But I do want to give a quick shout out to our Kunoichi Commotion champions real quick. The two open division champions you've got in EU, the Green Fortnite Drill Edition, I think is what they called themselves in EU, and then in NA you had the Chengdu Drainers. So congratulations to both of those champions of our Kunoichi Commotion in CGL, and I'm excited to see where Kunoichi goes from here. As it do, I look forward to seeing how this playoff will progress. So Mythos Griffins 3-0 over Emerald here tonight to move on to face Bastion OF. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this series as much as we did, and we hope to see y'all in the next one. Have a good night, y'all.
Name straight, new wave.